and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you.
Hello, I'm Helen Leathers, and with me today is my business partner and podcast co-host, Tom Dillon. Good morning, Tom. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you, Helen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I noticed you threw the word podcast into your introduction, which you don't normally do.
I know.
You went off script.
I did. I don't know
Not
why.
that we have a script.
What are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about some psychological concepts that might well show up in the coaching room that we might be unaware of. Probably are unaware of, to be honest, but might be interesting to explore.
Okay.
Because it might offer us some information about what's going on in our conversations and in our relationships with our clients.
Okay. What are these psychological concepts?
So I just left you hanging there, didn't I?
Just a bit, yeah.
We're going to talk about transference, counter-transference, projection, and parallel processing.
Which sounds like something a computer would do.
It does sound a little bit, and there is a parallel processing in computers. That
Okay.
what's the opposite? Parallel processing in computers. I don't know. There's something. Yeah. I don't know. I know there's another way of doing it, but yes.
So these concepts come from therapy, right?
Some, yes, come from the psychoanalytical world, I guess, even before therapy. So certainly transference, counter-transference and projection were Freudian terms. So Freud, like 1905, 1910, that sort of era, Freud was recognizing that these phenomena were occurring within his coaching and kind of identified it. So within his coaching. Within his psychoanalysis.
Have you just changed the history of
I have, yeah. Good old Freud and his coaching. So, yeah.
Maybe we should do a podcast on Freudian coaching.
Freudian coaching.
Do you think there's such a thing?
No.
No, okay. Carry on.
Yeah, I quite like a bit of Freud, actually. It's like, it's a bit, I don't know. People kind of tend to, what's the word? It's like have a caricature of an impression of Freud that is not always helpful. Whereas I think without him, who knows where we would be now?
Well, indeed. Yeah. Where are we now? What are we going to do next?
So I think it's useful just to explore each of those concepts and to see how they might show up in the coaching room.
Excellent. Good. I'm glad we're doing this. So these might be terms people hear but feel unsure about.
Yeah.
They might sound a bit clinical.
Yeah.
But they do actually describe quite human experiences.
Yes. So they definitely, if you were a psychiatrist, a therapist, you're going to have come across these terms in your training, and you will have worked with this stuff. Coaching, not so much. It's not something that generally gets talked about in. I picked up a supervision book the other day, and it mentioned nothing about transference in that.
Oh, really?
So yeah, but it is part of that supervision space as well, I think. So yeah, so that'll be worth giving it an airing.
Yeah, so they're quite a natural phenomena just about interacting with humans.
Yeah, so I think, certainly going back to Freud, it was problematic for Freud. Like, it was signs it was going to get in the way. Whereas I think the modern take on it is that it's just giving us some information.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of these things can be problematic, but I don't think they necessarily have to be if we accept that it's just we have a relationship in the coaching room in some form, and in having a relationship, that is going to lead to some of these concepts materializing.
So some people might be listening to this, and as we explain a particular term, they might suddenly say, oh,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
the thing that's been happening.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so let's start then with transference.
Okay, so in its simplest form, transference, when a coachee brings feelings, expectations, as relational patterns that they have in their life, and maybe from earlier life, so it might be feelings that they had for someone previously, they bring that into the coaching relationship. So they begin to experience the coach through that lens. So there's something about the coach that prompts that way of thinking about the coach that is a reminder of something previous. Or certainly another relationship. It might be a current relationship, but yeah.
Okay, so they might see perhaps the coach as an authority figure.
Yes, definitely. And they might have a certain pattern of relationships, of thinking, of emotions that exist around authority figures for them. So it could be that they always defer to authority figures, that they are always rebellious when they come across authority figures. They might want to please an authority figure. So different ways that they might show up as a pattern that become evident within the coaching. So that's how they show up with you as a coach. When you have no desire for them to be that way, it's very much an adult to adult relationship. That's how you show up. But because they are seeing something, they're experiencing something in you that brings that other way of being for them into the room.
That pattern of behaviour.
Yeah.
And this is not conscious. This is not deliberate.
No. And I think we had an episode before, I can't remember which episode it was, but we had an episode of the roles that a coachee might see us in. So we talked about, maybe a priest, a confessor, those different ways of being, or maybe a nurturing parent or something. So there are different ways that a coachee might see us, but this is how, in transferring those patterns of behaviour and emotions that they have for authority figures, they might bring that to the room.
So they might want to impress.
Yeah.
They might worry about being judged.
Yeah.
Perhaps want approval. Mm-hmm. So any of those things can come up.
Yeah, or they could be defensive, cautious, distrustful.
That's not going to make for good coaching, is it?
Well, but I think it's something that could easily sit there, especially within organisations. If you've been wheeled in as the coach and they're expected to come and sit and be open and honest with you, and they may be distrusting of other authority figures in the organisation.
And then they've been sent for coaching. Yeah.
So, but it's modern thinking around it is not necessarily something that's just projected by the coachee onto the coach, but it's something that's co-created in the relationship. So it is their history, their patterns, but it's also the coach's presence, how they're interpreting the coach.
So like the past is quietly shaping how the coachee experiences this relationship now, this new relationship perhaps.
Yeah.
With the coach that they've just walked into.
Yeah. And obviously as the coach, you have no idea. So
no.
It could be that what's going on here? I'm just showing up as me as I normally am, but I'm getting a very different response from this person. And obviously it can show up in positive ways, so that you could see it that wanting to please the coach could be a positive thing. I don't think it always is. I think that leads to almost an extrinsic motivator, doesn't it? That would disappear once you left. So perhaps not quite as wholesome as we might want it to be. But it could be fairly positive in that way, but it could be quite negative. So if they really do have issues with you and don't feel safe because they're transferring those emotional patterns onto you, then it's not going to lead to a great outcome. The flip side of that, wanting to please you and feeling like you have to be there in order for them to move forward, could create some dependence as well.
Yeah. And of course, because we've said this is unconscious, they could be experiencing these things and not understanding why.
Definitely.
So transference is really about the emotional colouring of the relationship from the perspective of the coachee, but also you're going to be impacted.
And I think, the modern take on it in that relational sense is it gives us some information as the coach. If you're noticing this is what's happening and we're thinking, this is interesting, then we can start to explore it. And we might be able to ask them how they normally are with figures of authority. What other figures of authority they have and how do they show up in those relationships. And it might be that understanding how they're showing up in the coaching room might help them to unpick some of the problems potentially that they're having in other relationships.
Yeah.
Or have had previously in other relationships.
So that's transference. What about counter-transference?
So counter-transference is the coach's emotional response to the coachee.
So our feelings as the coach.
Yeah. And again, it's not something we're necessarily choosing to have. It's just something that emerges within that space between the two of us.
So is that in response to transference, or can it happen on its own?
Yes, is the answer. It could be either. It could be both. So yes, so it may be that in someone showing up wanting to please you, that you foster that, and that brings out something in you that makes you want to help them, encourage them. And
so you could go into nurturing parent
you could go into nurturing
mode.
Yeah. Or if they come and they're quite rebellious and distrusting of you, but almost not wanting to engage, that might bring out a controlling parent in you. You might become quite judgmental of that and go to a different place yourself. But it could just be they show up and there's something about them that reminds you of a similar person, a similar people. So
you react.
You react to that way. So it's that something that emerges in the relationship that brings about an emotional response from you that isn't necessarily about that person. It's a pattern that you have when presented with people like that.
It's your baggage.
It's your baggage, yeah.
So you could maybe get irritated by them, become overly invested in their success or improvement. Perhaps you might want to give them more advice.
Yeah, so you could go to that rescuer place, couldn't you? You say, well, if you think, well, they're just like a child, and you may have experience of children and wanting to help, and go to that rescuer place, nurturing parent place. I mean, we're mixing our
we are definitely
a little bit here, but it might help for people to understand.
Yeah,
it's not intentional. It's just something that emerges within that space. But again, I think that can be interesting for us as a coach if we recognize with that person in particular, we go to a certain place that we wouldn't normally go to if we're just in clean coaching and we're not having that emotional cognitive response to what's going on. So I think that's really useful then to take to supervision to explore with people. Well, this has come up, and what? So I was coaching recently where I was quite challenging of the coachee and took that to supervision, wondering why I had gone to that place of challenge where I perhaps wouldn't normally. So I think it's definitely useful if you become aware of it. To recognise it is useful, and once you have that awareness, I think to be able to take it to your supervisor, talk about it, think about what's going on. And it may be then that there are conversations you could have with the coachee of, well, this is coming up for me and I'm not sure what that means to you. Yeah. And
have a discussion around that. So it might connect to our own history, our own baggage, as I said, the experiences, sensitivities, but it might signal something else.
Yeah. And obviously, it's extreme. It could be that your coachee has feelings for you as a coach.
Oh, okay. Feelings other than, they're a great coach.
Yes. So they might have some sense of attraction or, how would we describe that? Emotional feelings of love perhaps could develop, couldn't it?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And it might be that that's what happens for them when they come into contact with helping figures, that they think, okay, well, they're helping me, therefore there must be something more than just a professional relationship here.
Yeah.
But that's maybe a pattern for them that always shows up. Or it may be that in coming across someone who presents themselves as helpless, we find that that's something that we go to that maybe just a helping space initially, but we develop feelings. So possible. So
all things to reflect on.
Yeah, and all things to explore in the supervision space, because none of these things are necessarily bad. Obviously, we have ethics and ethical guidelines around the relationship that we have with the client, but it's nothing that can't be handled and explored and worked out. So I think that being aware of it initially is really useful.
Yeah. And asking, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
With that supervisor in that space.
Yeah.
So this all feels very human. Actually.
Yeah, it is. It's about relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, it's reassuring in a way, because I think that psychological terms can feel a bit, especially these ones, can feel a bit scary.
Yeah, and if you think that it has its origins in, say, Freudian work.
Freudian coaching.
Freudian work, where people had problems, neuroses, and if we think about work that psychiatrists do, then obviously people having these emotional reactions to the psychiatrist are probably going to be more problematic because there are issues going on anyway. So that just amplifies all of this. Whereas if we're dealing with resourceful, well people, then it is just, okay, well, this is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's explore this.
So let's explore the next one.
Yes.
Which is projection.
Yes. So projection is a process where someone unconsciously attributes their own thoughts, feelings, or qualities to someone else.
So slightly different from transference.
Yes. Related, but different. So with transference, we talk about patterns of earlier relationships being replayed in the present relationship. With projection, we talk about something internal, so internal emotions being located externally.
Oh, say more about this.
For example, a coachee might feel uncertain in their role, let's say, and they might describe others as lacking confidence, the people around them as lacking confidence.
Okay, yeah.
So someone might be really critical. That's how they feel inside.
Always criticising themselves.
Yes, but they might experience the world as being full of critical people.
Okay.
I mean, they might be critical of others as well.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, but they see everyone else as being critical. Someone who feels angry all the time might perceive others as being hostile towards them.
So whatever they feel inside of themselves, they project onto other people.
Yes.
Like a film projector.
Yeah, because quite often it's uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable feelings that they don't really want.
Yeah.
So they project it outwards and go, well, they're being hostile.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can remember times when I've seen people who've quite clearly been doing that. Yeah.
And again, it's not something they're consciously doing, but maybe just a defense mechanism for them. Get rid of those uncomfortable feelings that they don't like to have themselves.
Yeah. So they're not aware of it.
Mm-hmm. And obviously in the coaching room, that could show up in quite subtle ways. So a coachee might describe everyone at work as being unsupportive. They might say their team doesn't listen. They might feel judged, criticised, excluded. And that might well be true, but it might also be something that's happening within them.
So the coach really needs to be quite gentle with this and explore it rather than assuming all that story is true, finding out more about it, asking questions.
And obviously we're very person-centered in the way that we coach. So we do tend to listen to someone's story. So all of this will be wrapped up in their story.
Yeah.
And it might be about everyone else and not about them. But I think our role as a coach is to explore and ask questions about how they're experiencing it. Ask, if they think someone's judging them, what makes you think that they're judging you? Just challenging the story, because it is just a story at that point, isn't it? Yeah. It's their narrative.
What evidence is there that that's the situation?
Yeah, and maybe asking them if they feel something or feel that people are being that way in a certain situation. Ask them about similar experiences in a different situation and how they felt about that. And you might see commonalities coming out, or it might be something about that particular situation. So it becomes something that really increases self-awareness then, doesn't it? Yeah. So if it's a pattern of behaviour and they do it almost with everyone they come across, then they're going to start to realise there's something in them that's prompting that way of being.
Okay. So let's finally talk about parallel processing.
Yes. So this is the idea that those relational patterns can exist across relationships and systems. So So it may be that a coachee is coming into the coaching room, and it may be they talk about feeling pressured by their manager, but they may feel the pressure in the coaching space as well.
Okay.
So there's a parallel there, isn't there? You know, they're showing feeling pressured, but they're also feeling that pressure in the workplace. So someone who feels unheard in their workspace and talks about feeling unheard in the workplace may feel unheard in the coaching space.
Right. Okay. So they're processing the thing that's happening to them outside of the coaching space in the coaching space.
Yes. So then what might happen is that the coach starts to feel the same thing.
Oh, gosh.
So that's kind of where, and this is where it came up originally. I think guys, Harold Searle in the 1950s recognized that in that supervision space, the feelings that the supervisor was having around the therapist were also the feelings the therapist was having about their patient. So the therapist describing what's going on for the patient, and the supervisors go, well, that's how I feel about you. So there's that parallel going on. So it could be, I just remember my supervisor, Bob, talking about a client he'd had and who talked about a certain relationship at work that he had. And when he talked about it, Bob always felt very bored by the conversation. And actually said, when you talk about the guy, I just feel bored. Which is, I wouldn't say that in a coaching room.
No.
That's quite a brave place to go to, isn't it? But he just, at some point, he just said, I feel quite bored. I've noticed I feel bored when you talk about that. I said, well, that's exactly how I feel about him.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that kind of boredom.
So I have had situations in the past where right from the start of getting ready for my coaching session, and I do my prep and everything else, and I felt flustered and like I dropped my pen and knocked something over, and then the person coming into that coaching space was doing the same thing. And I wonder if that's a similar thing, or is that just me being really weird?
No, I think that's similar, isn't it? That's a parallel process going on within that relationship.
Yeah. But what I find peculiar is that starts without, often when I've experienced it, even before we've started the session. So it's almost like I'm picking up on something before we even start.
Yeah. But it could be that in someone presenting themselves as being irritated, intolerant of someone else, that you start to feel irritated and intolerant of the coachee.
Yeah.
That becomes a thing. It could be that if they are feeling unconfident and maybe experience some imposter syndrome in their role, you as the coach might feel that imposter syndrome in trying to support them, that you don't really know how to support them. So you start to feel that confidence as well.
And I think that's something that I'd quite like to pick up on there for new coaches who go into a coaching environment with exactly that. If you are feeling, how am I going to help with this? And your confidence is suddenly questionable, and you're coaching about confidence, that can feel really hard. Yeah. So maybe this will help our coaches to sort of sit and go, actually, this is just some parallel processing. I've got the tools, I've got the skills.
I mean, it might not be parallel processing. It might be you start off with a lack of confidence anyway, but someone else coming in to talk about their confidence suddenly amplifies that. Exaggerates it, and you might start to feel it more. But and as I say, again, a bit like the other aspects, it's not something to worry about. I think it's just something to notice, be aware of, and be curious about.
Yeah, maybe take a breath.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's giving us information, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be curious about why this might be coming up with this particular client. And I think that's the thread running through everything we've talked about today. So transference shows us how maybe past relationships shape the present. Counter-transference gives us information about that relational dynamic that's existing within the coaching room. Projection helps us to understand how people make sense of their inner world and perhaps project it outwards. And then the parallel processing shows us how the patterns can repeat across systems and across the relationships.
That's a really nice, concise way of describing those, because I think sometimes you can get a bit muddled with them.
And I think that taking the view that none of them are problems. They're simple human processes. They're going to happen within all relationships. But I think within the coaching room, if we can notice them and just hold them with curiosity rather than, I've got to do something about this, they can deepen our awareness without overanalyzing the coachee and the coaching relationship.
Or thinking you've got to suddenly stop coaching someone.
Yes.
It feels like
I think that can be quite evident for people, isn't it? If they do think, I don't know what's going on here. There's suddenly something more intense going on in the relationship.
Yeah.
It might be nothing.
Yeah.
It might be just how the other person shows up and you're projecting at your...
Or if you're questioning your own ability, like rather than thinking I need to refer them on to someone else.
Yeah.
It feels like a quiet kind of knowledge, not something necessarily to use, but something to carry with you.
Not to use, but to be aware of and to be curious about when you feel it happening. So when you feel that there's something different going on in the coaching room that's not normally there, just to treat that with curiosity. And I say supervision is a great place to take that.
Yeah.
And hopefully to be able to make sense of it.
It feels like a good place to pause.
Excellent. Well done. Enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Like to get Freud in there every now and then.
So if you're listening and notice moments in your coaching where something feels a little bit emotionally charged, it might be worth just gently wondering, what could it be telling you?
Indeed. What are we doing next time, Helen?
Next time on the podcast, we're going to come back to a topic that someone might bring to the coaching space. And we perhaps see a lot of with our coaching doctors.
Let me think. What might it be? No, you're going to have to tell me.
Okay. It's work-life balance.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
have we never talked about work-life balance?
No, interestingly.
We talk about it a lot.
Yeah. So I thought we could have a chat.
Yeah. Good. Excellent stuff. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.